Hey, what's up you guys? It's Ruthie and welcome back to my channel. We're going into Auggie and Me, the Julian chapter, part 16, part 2, part 16, because it wanted to cut out on me while I was recording. So yeah, here we go. This section may be contained with sensitive topics and foul language. If you do not wish to continue, I suggest you click off the video now. You have been warned. He rushed into the school and told the teachers that the Germans were coming to collect all the Jewish children and take them away. What? What is this? I could not believe what I was hearing. The teachers in the school went around to all the classes and gathered the Jewish children together. We were told to follow the marquee into the woods. We were going to hide. Hurry, hurry, hurry. I think there may have maybe been 10 of us in all. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Escape. Grandmere looked at me to make sure I was listening, which of course I was. It was snowing that morning and very cold, and all I could think was, if I go into the woods, I would ruin my shoes. I was wearing these beautiful new red shoes that Papa had bought me, you see. As I said before, I was a frivolous girl, perhaps even a little stupid, but this is what I was thinking. I did not even stop to think, well, where is Maman and Papa? If the Germans were coming for the Jewish children, had they come for the parents already? That did not occur to me at all. All I could think about were my beautiful shoes, so instead of following the marquee into the woods, I snuck away from the group and went to hide inside the bell tower of the school. There was a tiny room up there full of crates and books, and there I hid. I remember thinking I would go home in the afternoon after the Germans came and tell Maman and Papa all about it. This is how stupid I was, Julian. I nodded. I couldn't believe I had never heard this story before. And then the Germans came, she said. There was a narrow window in the tower and I could see them perfectly. I watched them run into the woods after the children. It did not take them very long to find them. They all came back together, the Germans, the children, the marquee soldier. Grandmere paused and blinked a few times, and then she took a deep breath. They shot the marquee in front of all the children, she said quietly. He fell so softly, Julian, in the snow. The children cried. They cried as they were led away in a line. One of the teachers, Mademoiselle Pt16, went with them, even though she was not Jewish. She said she would not leave her children. No one ever saw her again. Poor thing. By now, Julian and I had awakened from my stupidity. I was not thinking of my red shoes anymore. I was thinking of my friends who had been taken away. I was thinking of my parents. I was waiting until it was night time so I could go home to them. But not all of the Germans had left. Some had stayed behind along with the French police. They were searching the school, and then I realized they were looking for me. Yes, for me. And for one or two other Jewish children who had not gone into the woods. I realized then my friend Rachel had not been among the Jewish children who were marched away, nor Jacob, a boy from another village who all the girls wanted to marry because he was so handsome. Where were they? They must have been hiding just like I was. Then I heard creaking, Julian. Up the stairs I heard footsteps, up the stairs coming closer to me. I was so scared I tried to make myself as small as possible behind the crate and hid my head beneath the blanket. Here, Grandmere covered her head with her arms as if to show me how she was hiding, and then I heard someone whisper my name. She said it was not a man's voice, it was a child's voice. Sarah? The voice whispered again. I peeked out from the blanket. Pt2, I answered, astonished. I was so surprised because in all the years I had known him, I didn't think I had ever said a word to him nor him to me, and yet there he was calling my name. They will find you here, he said. Follow me. And I did follow him, for by now I was terrified. He led me down a hallway into the chapel of the school, which I had never really been to before. We went to the back of the chapel, where there was a crypt. All this was new to me, Julian, and we crawled through the crypt so the Germans would not see us through the windows, because they were looking for us still. I heard when they had found Rachel. I heard her screaming in the courtyard as they took her away. Poor Rachel. Pt2 took me down to the basement beneath the crypt. There must have been 100 steps at least. These were not easy for Pt2, as you can imagine, with his terrible limp and his 2 canes, but he hopped down the steps 2 at a time, looking behind him to make sure I was following. Finally, we arrived at a passage. It was so narrow we had to walk sideways to get through, and then we were in the sewers, Julian. Can you imagine? I knew instantly because of the smell, of course. We were knee-deep in refuse. You can imagine the smell, so much for my red shoes. We walked all night. It was so cold, Julian. Pt2 was such a kind boy, though. He gave me his coat to wear. It was to this day the most noble act anyone has ever done for me. He was freezing too, but he gave me his coat. I was so ashamed for the way I had treated him. Oh, Julian, I was so ashamed. She covered her mouth with her fingers and swallowed. Then she finished the glass of wine and poured herself another. The sewers led Dannersville, a small village about 15 kilometers away from the Aubrevillers. Maman and Papa had always avoided this town because of the smell. The sewers from Paris drained into the farmland there. We wouldn't even eat apples grown in Dannersville, but it's where Tor lived. He took me to his house, and we cleaned ourselves by the well, and then Tor brought me to the barn behind his house. He wrapped me up in a horse blanket and told me to wait. He was going to get his parents. No, I pleaded, please don't tell them. I was so frightened. I wondered if when they saw me they would call the Germans. You know, I had never met them before. But Tor left, and a few minutes later he returned with his parents. They looked at me. I must have seemed quite pathetic there, all wet and shivering. The mother, Vivienne, put her arms around me to comfort me. Oh, Julian, that hug was the warmest hug I have ever felt. I cried so hard in this woman's arms because I knew I would never cry in my own mama's arms again. I just knew in my heart, Julian, and I was right. They had taken Maman, and that same day, along with all the other Jews in the city. My father, who had been at work, had been warned that the Germans were coming and managed to escape. He was smuggled to Switzerland, but it was too late for Maman. She was deported that day to Auschwitz. I never saw her again, my beautiful Maman. She took a deep breath here and shook her head. That is the end of this section. I will see you guys in the next video for part 17. Bye.